All right, and we're live. What's the difference between Hawaiian Kempo and American Kempo? Where's this coming from? Well, recently McDojo Life put up a video responding to Andrew Tate's verbal bash of all traditional martial arts, saying that they suck. In response, McDojo Life's owner said that traditional martial arts don't necessarily suck and started throwing out examples and said Chuck Liddell, Hawaiian Kempo. And a bunch of Kempo guys jumped in the comments and were like, oh, yeah, Kempo is the best. Look, Chuck Liddell is our champion. But is he? Well, who else better to ask than Chuck Liddell's coach, John Hackleman, UFC coach John Hackleman, and founder of Hawaiian Kempo. So he would know best. What is the difference between Hawaiian Kempo and what they would call Ed Parker's American Kempo? What's going on?
Uh, that's a that's a loaded topic, but I'll go. All right, what I think the difference. I think Hawaiian Kempo. I would say the only thing I can think of that I've ever heard of as a martial art that's close would be would be um Bruce Lee's I don't know what Bruce Lee's martial art. Um, would it be? I think that would be the closest thing, you know. Um, he had Wing Chun, right? And then he made his own style. Why am I keep going off? I wonder why. He had his own style. Um, and from what I've heard him talking about it, uh, it's kind of it's similar to Hawaiian Kempo. I think his is less traditional than mine, right? Um, because his Wing Chun, right? That was his original style.
So his original style was Wing Chun. And
Yeah,
then he
yeah.
created his own style called Jeet Kune Do, but he only did Wing Chun for about a year. So it's kind of questionable of how much Wing Chun he actually did. And he actually did some
I thought that
boxing.
was style.
Yeah, Wing Chun is a style, and he did it for a
I
year.
thought that was his style. Oh, really?
No,
I
yeah,
was
Wing
in the
Chun was not a style. It's a Chinese style that he took from. He didn't take. He was taught by the instructor Yip Man, and then
yeah.
from there he created his own style called Jeet Kune Do,
Yeah.
and then that's how that history worked there. And then John, if you get
So
a little closer to your camera, we'll see you. Or if you maybe tilt your camera up a little bit, it'll
yeah.
help
Okay.
with your
Um,
disappearing act.
so the Jeet Kune Do, that's what I was trying to. I think the difference would be we are a traditional martial art. We do wear a gi, a uniform. We do promote during a belt ceremony. I don't know if they did bowing and stuff like we do. Um, I don't know if they have a chain of command like we do, you know, and that's all by the belt. Um, so I don't. From what I've heard, he doesn't really. So the only thing I think we were similar in our philosophies on the actual techniques we're going to use. Like, you know, I saw double leg takedowns, single leg takedowns, body lock takedowns, takedown defense, left hook, right hook, arm bar, choke defense. I've seen all that stuff in Jeet Kune Do, and he didn't seem to have any kind of proprietary things that held him back. So I felt Jeet Kune Do was just learn something and then teach it if it works. If it doesn't,
And
get
just
it.
to, and I don't
Get
mean to interrupt you. I'm just gonna say this because the Jeet Kune Do guys are gonna go crazy if I don't. It's Kun Jeet Kune Do. If we say Quan, they're gonna get mad. So Jeet Kune Do, but how's this? Well, so Jeet Kune Do is more similar to what you do. But what about
yeah.
What about American
Uh,
Kempo?
let me the but what's different about that and us is we are a traditional martial art, like more like American Kempo in that way, like the way we run our classes, the way we see, you know. the way we perceive each other just from the outside. But then if you dig down deeper, our curriculum is much more like Jeet Kondo, Kundu, Jeet Kundu. Okay.
Jikundo. Jikundo.
Taekwondo. Okay, whatever. So I feel like our techniques and our philosophy on fighting are much more like that. But I think our lifestyle and our traditions and our culture is more like American Kempo, Shotokan Kempo, or more of a traditional form. We do the kids, we do the, we do the family events. We, like I said, we wear the belt, we do belt ceremonies and stuff like that. So in that way, we're traditional, but we don't have proprietary movements like American Kempo, like all their katas, forms, whatever, like even what they have in Kaju Kempo, the chayokas and the grab arts and the all the movements that are choreographed and you have to memorize them. I feel like we're more like Jeet Kondo than they are. Okay. But like I said, so I think we're traditional and I think we behave in more of a traditional way, like you're accountable in class and you can get in trouble and it's like a classroom, it's like a society or it's like a community, right? I think more than the things like Jeet Kune Do are. I think they're just kind of go in and just work on certain techniques and it's kind of they don't wear a uniform. They don't I don't think they have a belt system or anything like that. So I think we're a mixture of both. And I think we take the best of both because I think it's great to have a culture. I think it's great to have traditions as long as they're good traditions. And I think it's great to be a traditional martial art. I love being a traditional martial art and I love being recognized as one. But I don't love the phoniness of the bunkai and the phony katas and the phony, traditional techniques that are bad. Like I want to keep the good traditions, like for instance, our belt ceremony, like for instance, our Christmas parade, like for instance, our family feel in our community, our belts and stuff like that. I like that traditions, but I don't like traditions that hold your student back from being a better real life, real time, realistic martial artist. Boom. Bing.
All right. All right. So that being said,
Yeah.
as the founder of Hawaiian Kempo, how do you
Yeah.
feel about people coming in and claiming Chuck Liddell as their champion? Like Kempo guys, American Kempo, specifically American Kempo. Kaju Kempo guys make a little more sense to me because you have a black belt in Kaju Kempo. But in American Kempo, historically speaking, Ed Parker, as for those of you, we're gonna go into a history lesson real quick. I'll try to catch you up in like 2 seconds. A long time ago, Ed Parker and this guy named Cesar Imperato were in Hawaii, and they learned under a guy named William Chow, and that's the guy who created Kempo back there. And then they split off into two very different roads. And then down the line, even further down the line, you have Godin, and then you have Hackelman, who Hackelman went even further in a different direction with because of time. Let's face it, this is 1950 something, and now we're in 2024. So how do you feel about people technically not from the same style, kind of American Kempo's kind of similar, kind of not, and then saying like, "Oh well, Chuck Liddell is one of our guys." Is he?
Okay. First of all, the Kempo split and one side grabbed an M and one side grabbed an N. So American Kenpo is different than Hawaiian Kempo because Hawaiian Kempo has an M. And I think it's gone back and forth. And I don't know if that matters that much or not. But to be honest, I mean, there's no doubt about it that the roots of Ed Parker are there, and the roots of William Chow spread to Godine as well. Um, but so I think there's a gene pool mix for Chuck to be related to American Kempo, not as closely as he is Hawaiian Kempo or even Kaji Kempo, but they can claim part of that, and he does have a Kempo tattoo on his arm. It doesn't say Hawaiian Kempo. He just shortened it because it was like getting too big, but it's still Kempo, and it's really a similar meaning with if you turn it into the kanji, right? It's like law of the fist either way. Just one's more Japanese-ish and one's more Chinese, whatever. He still has there still is some, there's a connection there. They can talk about that and brag that, I think. Just like I feel like this is closer, just physically and every way. I feel like there's a connection between the pit and Alex Pereira, right? I mean, he's not right under me, but he's under someone that is under me. So where that's not that close to Godine, me, and Chuck, there still is a connection with American Kempo and Chuck. So they can brag. They can brag about him. I think they get bragging rights to him. Just don't think it overpowers my bragging rights.
So you're cool. They can you
No
want to bring in
problem.
the bragging rights? Go for it. See
I, I
what a nice
yeah,
guy.
like I'll take some credit for Elvis Presley. He's a Kempo guy. So I'll say I get some credit from him. Then I'll give them credit from
So wait, so
Chuck.
now we're doing a draft. We're doing some trade. Now
Doing
we're
a
gonna
trade.
we're gonna do
Doing
some
a trade.
trades. We're gonna do some trades. We're gonna trade Chuck Liddell for Elvis Presley.
I just want well, no, they can have some credit for Chuck. I'll take some credit for now. You got to realize the credit for Chuck. It's like I'm giving them credit for say $1 million. They're giving me credit for maybe $100. So it's not as important, but it's still there, and I can still say I'm related to I'm related to Elvis. I mean, to be honest, right? So I don't know. It's one big happy family anyway. If you look at it, it's all started in the same place. It just kind of branched off in different places. So I think people know, anyone that's in the know knows Chuck's roots and Chuck where he came from. Chuck knows where he came from, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. If Chuck was to talk about his roots, he's not going to say American Kempo. He's going to say Hawaiian Kempo, Kaji Kempo. He's going to say that. He knows where he came from. He knows his roots. He's proud of his roots. And that's all that really matters. So Kempo can have a little, well, he's partly Kempo. They can have that. We'll give him that.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Well, that being said, now is where I turn around and answer any questions you might have. So if any of you are watching, there's 5 of you watching right now. If you have any questions you want to ask Chuck Liddell's coach right now, we are live. You can ask them anything you'd like about anything,
Anything.
anything,
Anything.
literally anything,
Anything. I don't
and
even
he'll
care.
answer. So go ahead and bring on the questions. So far, Mr. Awake says, you should get Glover to bring Alex to Hawaii and promote him to black belt. That would be awesome exposure. John?
That might not be too far off the black belt part in Hawaiian Kempo, but it won't be in Hawaii because I test my students in Hawaii because I'm from Hawaii. Glover likes to test his students in Arroyo Grande because that's where his martial arts journey began. So he likes to take his people back to where he's from and do the things he used to do when he was coming up, like Madonna Mountain, Grover Beach, the workout at the pit, our compound workout. I like to do stuff I did coming up in Hawaii like Wilhelmina Rise, Kahala Beach Wrestling, and Palolo Boxing Gym. So Glover likes he's actually coming out here in March and he's going to promote some of his guys. He might or might not bring out Alex, but when he promotes Alex to black belt, it'll be here in Arroyo Grande.
All right. All right. Let's see. Next question. Oh, wow. I think we wrapped up all our questions.
What?
Yeah. Just
All
like
right,
that.
all right.
Just like we know I should do though, just to do my diligent work. What I should do is I should check because I think we might have, not on purpose, we might have missed some questions last week. And oh yes, okay, here it goes. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. All right, here's a question from last week that I missed. It came in. It came in right after we left, and the question was out of curiosity, why is it spelled Kaju Kembo, but some people call it Kaji Kempo?
Huh. Okay, yeah, that I have no.
I've never heard it called
I
that.
don't even know. I don't know where to go.
I've never heard it called that. Okay, some people call it Kaji Kempo, apparently. But I guess the main question is, why is it called Kaju Kembo?
I think because the guys that started this art weren't maybe they're either really creative or just not creative at all. So they just came up with
Ah,
the first two or three letters to each of their arts. Like the first guy was Ka, so that he was karate. So the first two letters are not very, I mean, that's not, I mean, it might be really brilliant, but or it might just be not very creative. And not all martial arts guys are creative when it comes to writing, copyright, right? So, I mean, so, and then the next guy is judo guy, right? And jujitsu guy. So they just went Jew. And then the third guy is a Kenpo guy. And so he went, okay, I get three letters. I'm gonna go with Ken. So that three letters is the Ken, which turned into which turned into an M. So it's kind of confusing, but back then, I guess they grabbed an N instead of an M.
yeah,
So Kaju Kem,
is it there?
and then the bow is boxing. Some people say American boxing, some people just say Chinese boxing. I don't know the difference. If you get in a ring and you put, you get in a, you put four poles and you put ropes and you just let them go, and the bell rings. I don't think if you're Chinese, Japanese, Korean, American, black, white, I think boxing is fucking boxing. I don't think it has anything to do with being Chinese or Japanese or Korean. I think it's boxing. So it's Ju, karate, judo, jujitsu, grappling, Ken, Kempo, more of a Kempo style it was a lot like karate. So I don't know really the difference there, but they thought it was. So it's up to them. And then the bow is the boxing. So that's the hands and swinging and a lot of the attitude of training hard and taking a punch and stuff. So the bow is a big one, but they all mean something, and that's why it's named Haju Kempo.
Bo.
Yeah.
So another comment, a few comments came in while you were explaining that, and also thank you for your question. Again, if you don't ask the question now, I can always bring it to the next episode. Oh, okay. Mr. Owe says, "Oh, okay. I remember you bringing your guys out to Hawaii with you one year. Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, they do that. Mr. Owe now asks,
Every year we go to Hawaii.
excuse me. The all right. So Mr. Owe says, different topic. John, you were 100% right about looking good on pads on mitts and that not meaning much. Whoever was recording Tyson made him look way better than he actually performed in his fight.
Yes. I mean, there's a reason for that. I think that's two different topics though, because when people start doing all this crazy stuff on the pads and then they count out numbers and people choreograph it, that's kind of like a kata for boxing. They just mix it all up and it doesn't really mean that much. It does create hand speed and head and eye coordination and stuff, but it's not realistic for a fight. You're never going to see the guy fighting like that that's doing all that tap 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 tap. But when Tyson was doing it, he wasn't doing all that. He was just swinging. But you can't expect someone to look the same on pads because they're not hitting him back. They're not trying to knock him out, and he can rest when he gets tired. It's a whole different ball of wax. It's like a guy looking better on a heavy bag than in the fight. You know what I mean? So, or a guy having better footwork when he's jumping rope than when he's in the cage or the ring. So I don't think anyone's going to look the same when they're hitting an inanimate object that's not hitting the back than when they are hitting something that's trying to knock them the fuck out. So that's why he didn't look the same with the mitts as he did in the ring, because Paul was trying to knock his head off. But for the guys that I'm talking about, all that fancy glitzy stuff, I just think it's fun and it looks cool and it's good for the guy's conditioning and stuff, but it's not really getting him ready for a fight. Working on the techniques that he's going to use in that fight are going to help him for the fight.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed up. You were talking about Bruce Lee earlier. Boards don't hit back. That was one of his. That was one of his quotes. Boards don't hit back. So
And
there
then,
you go.
okay, and then with that, when you say boards don't hit back, they don't hit back. But on the other side of that, breaking boards is a great it's a great it's a great way to make the kids get confidence and strength and power and learn how to make a tight fist, because when you're hitting that when you're hitting the heavy bag, it's soft, right? When you're hitting someone, even in sparring, you're using 16-ounce gloves, it's soft. But when you're hitting someone in the face in a street fight with no gloves, it feels more like the board. So the board, while it doesn't hit back, it's also a great training tool. It's a great way to build up confidence on your punching power, get to feel what a face really feels like. A board, it feels more like a board than a heavy bag or even a sparring partner with heavy gloves on. So true, boards don't hit back, but boards are also a great training tool.
Mr. Awak
Yeah,
says, "Hey,
there you go. There you
there it
go.
is. There it is.
See that?
There it is.
Free,
For,
guys.
for, for the for
I'm
those
giving
who,
you guys that.
yeah."
Pearls, pearls. They're pearls. Is that what they're pearls? I don't know. Something like that.
And I think if the Kempo guys are still watching, yeah, there you go. That's for you. I know a lot of the Kempo guys love board breaking. So
Board
there it
breaking
is.
is
There you
great. Board
go.
breaking is great.
There you go. Mr. Awak says, "LOL, Chinese boxing. Someone made that up." And yeah, someone did make that up. It's weird. Like when you look at the history of that, it's so here's the weird thing. Parker Kenpo comes out in the 1950s. Bruce Lee shows up in the 1970s, and then there's no real documentation. Like in Parker Kenpo, there's a bunch of like mythology and oral history passed on, but nothing's really written down, really, till like much later. And Bruce Lee wrote down all the stuff. And it's kind of weird that when I look at material online now, it's really hard for me to split apart what did Bruce Lee say and what did a Country Kimball guy say that Bruce Lee said and what did the original guy say. I have no idea because I wasn't there. But Chinese boxing in the martial arts communities, in the FMA community, it's kind of a weird thing. I want to really lean towards it's just a simplified American way of just saying Wing Chun. In the beginning of this conversation, we mentioned Wing Chun real quick about Jeet Kune Do and the background of Bruce Lee. He did that style Wing Chun for 1 year.
Yeah.
And some Americans have referred to Wing Chun and other styles similar to it as Chinese boxing. So now we're just talking really, let's simplify this some more. We're just talking about pairing and trapping, which you can be
It's
found
boxing. So
in a
let's
lot
just
of
keep it
different
as
styles.
boxing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it as boxing. I mean, I have my interpretation of what I feel my Kaji Kempo is,
Hmm.
and as long as I'm not 100% wrong, like saying, well, bow means the bow staff, right? Now I'm wrong 100%. But if somebody says Chinese boxing and I disagree and say no, it's just fucking boxing. You don't have to put a race on it or an ethnicity on it or a culture on it. Boxing is boxing. So if they want to call it Chinese boxing, I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't, you could call it Wing Chun, but you just called it Wing Chun. So is it Wing Chun or is it Chinese boxing? Boxing's boxing. That's what it stands for.
There you go. Bing. So
Being
Zen says that fight was scripted. He's talking about the Tyson fight. The Tyson fight was scripted. What do you think?
um man, I mean, you could say that about so many. You could say that about 70%, 75% of all fights. You could find something if you were looking to say, oh, it's fixed. You could, if you're looking for it, you can find it. And to me, if it doesn't bite me in the face, like hearing them say, okay, duck now, or something like that, or take a dive now, or something, I'm not going to believe it unless there's a reason to believe it. It's like you're just looking for something to make it malicious, when in reality it was just two guys, one guy that's a influencer and one guy that's a 60-year-old ex, boxing great. So that's all. I say that's what you go on, and not have to think of things where, like, the earth is flat. I don't know, I mean,
Oh, no, let's not go there. Let's not go there. I don't want
so
to deal with flat earthers. I've
you
already
can
had a.
make
That's it. I don't want to go there. Please no. Please don't. Don't open those gates. We'll never finish this podcast if we go that if
yeah,
we go in that direction.
especially if yeah,
If
there's
one of those
certain
guys, if one of those
certain
guys hears
MMA
that,
guys.
man, they're all gonna come flooding in here. It's just gonna be too much.
Okay, so I'm not going. But
All right.
there is no, there is no. I don't know. I just feel like it is what it is. It was a fight. It wasn't a great fight. It was a 27-year-old influencer and a 60-year-old boxing great. So of course it didn't have the potential to be a great fight, and it turned out to not be a great fight.
I mean, was it? I mean, look. So okay, so it wasn't a great fight, but I mean, they both made a lot of money.
Yeah.
They both made a lot of money. So I mean, I guess we'd have to define. I guess it just depends on what you define as great. I don't know if you went in with the expectation of Tyson looking like he did in his
So I'll
twenties.
tell you what it is. It's easy. It was a boring fight, and
There you go.
nobody looked at it and go, "Oh, that was like fucking that was like Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward." Nobody said the greatest, probably the great, could have been one of the greatest fights ever, and nobody is going to mistake that fight or put it in the same category as Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti, because it was a terrible. It was subjectively and objectively, so it doesn't even matter who you are. Nobody watched that fight and said that was a great fight, and nobody watched the Mickey Ward fight and the Arturo Gatti fight and said that was a terrible fight.
That's
Okay,
true.
so some things are like up in the air. Like, what was the worst fight? There might have been worse fights than that. So you could pick other fights, some people might say they're better fights. Like in the UFC, there's been some great fights, but nobody will ever mix up the last,
So so
Paul
so
against
what you're trying to say is that Tyson versus the
Paul.
YouTuber will never, well, Paul will never be at the top of the greatest fights. It will not reach
Yeah,
no top 10, or it should
no,
not reach no top 10.
no, and the
Okay.
Mickey Ward Arturo Gatti fight nobody will ever say that's one of the most boring fights.
Top
So
10
it's
worst
a
fights.
spectrum. It's a spectrum. Everything's in a spectrum now, and that's I just think it was not a good fight. But I don't think there was any shenanigans going on,
All right.
and
So
I
we
could
got,
be wrong.
yeah. So here's some more questions. Justin Lewis. Justin, thanks for joining us. Can you? Oh wait, no, Mr. Wick had one more question. This one could be answered real quickly. John, have you ever met Michael J. White, the actor?
Yes,
Okay. Yes.
once. I think I met him
Once.
once at Super Show,
Okay.
a Century Super Show, which was, it's like a big convention every year they used to have in Vegas. And I did meet him once, but I have no respect him, but I have no really any kind of relationship with him.
But he's
But
met him.
I am a fan, yeah.
There you go. He's met him, Mr. White. All right, Justin Lewis. As I said earlier, his question: can you be good at fighting without sparring? Well, we had a whole podcast about that earlier, a while back. And well,
Yeah,
John,
okay. Uh, yeah, can you be good at knife fighting without knife fighting? Um, but now you make it fake or give the person a fake blade. Now it's not really knife fighting because you're not having to worry about the cuts and you're not getting to cut someone else and you're not getting a true reaction when you touch them with a blade. So it's a huge difference. But guess what? If you practice that way with the real blade, you get better at it and you get deader at it. Okay. And boxing is fighting without anything, weapons is similar. You can get better with sparring, and it goes up incrementally. So the harder you spar, the more realistic it is. So you might get better at it, but then the brain damage starts setting in because you're doing so much hard sparring. So are you really going to get better? There has to be in knife fighting, there has to be a certain level where I'm going to go hard, but not past this because then I'll have an injury, right? And boxing, sparring, or empty-handed sparring is the same way. I'm going to get better the harder I go, but I'm also going to get hurter, right? The word hurt, I just added an er
yeah,
to it.
we got deader and herder now. I'm adding these to my dictionary.
Thank you. But you're going to get hurter, and you're not going to be as good in the long run. You might not be able to think for as long. You might drool. You might drool just naturally when you're walking down the street. So sparring should be done at a level, and you have to have a really good coach. It has to be done at a level where you're going to get better without getting hurter. You have to practice the same with the knife fighting. You have to go to a level and use a tool that makes you better, but not deader. Oh,
All right, there
fucking
it is.
genius right here. This is martial arts genius
Just
at its best.
dropping. He just spitting fire today. All right, so we so we got Justin saying, okay, no, Justin says Ohana Pitmaster. And then his follow up question to this is Justin wants to know, why is sparring so tiring?
Adrenaline. It goes in here. We're going to do spectrum again because I know people nowadays love to use that word spectrum. It's just everything's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. All right. So you hit the bag. Okay, let's start one step further. You shadow box, same power, same speed, same movement, shadow box. Okay. Now do that for 5 minutes. Now, same movement, same power, same speed on a heavy bag. Okay. Now you got a little bit of adrenaline and a little bit of resistance because you're hitting something. So it's going to make you a little more tired. Hitting the bag for 5 minutes at the same speed and power that hitting the air, the bag is going to make you a little more tired. Now you take it to the next level, the exact same movement, speed, the same intensity, but people are hitting you back. Now there's not only you're hitting something, so there's a little more intensity there, a little more cardio. But somebody's hitting you back. Now you're kind of nervous. Boom, adrenaline starts coming out. Adrenaline makes your heart beat faster. Your heart beats faster. makes you breathe harder. You have to breathe harder when your heart beats faster, and your heart beats faster has to beat faster when you breathe faster. So those two always go together. It's a ratio, a 0.8, okay? A ratio. So you get even more tired with that adrenaline pumping now, because the adrenaline, it's like epinephrine. It makes your heart beat faster, so you get tired quicker. Boom. Now a real fight. Now somebody's really trying to hurt you and do more than just tag you, but they're trying to hurt you or kill you. Now the adrenaline starts flooding. They call it adrenaline dump. And when that adrenaline starts pumping out, since it has little spots on the heart, the cardiac muscle, that it makes your heart beat faster. Before it makes you breathe harder, but by your heart beating faster, because it makes you, the adrenaline's pumping, you breathe more, so you get more tired now. So you go from shadow boxing to a real fight, and then there's hitting the bag and sparring in between. But it's on a spectrum of how tired you're going to get. But you get more tired in sparring than you do on the bag or shadow boxing. But nothing can give you the fatigue that a fight does. Now you take that fight in the ring or the cage, right? And you know the guy's trying to knock you out, right? There's a crowd there. That's fucking nerve-wracking. They're watching you. It's you're getting embarrassed if you get knocked out, or so it's in your mind and the adrenaline's pumping. So it pumps high. You get jumped in the street and you know that person's trying to kill you. That's when the adrenaline dump just is at its highest. Nothing will make you as tired as getting attacked in the street, even more than being in a cage fight with tens of thousands of fans watching. So there's that spectrum.
All
Bing.
right.
That's a
There it
lesson
is.
right there.
That
That's a
was
lesson.
that was we could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah,
Now,
okay.
Mr. Awakes, and again, if you guys just joined us, girls, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, if you just joined us, feel free to ask questions. We're in our wrap up right now, and if you want to
Females
see,
thing of watching. There's like 3 females out of, I'd say, 1,000 people. Guys, there's like no female. Just to say guys.
Include everyone. What's the difference between Hawaiian Kempo and American Kempo? You can go to the beginning of this to catch that entire conversation. Right now, we're in our wrap up with our questions. Mr. Awake's possibly final comment, if no one else has anything else to say. There was almost zero influence of Kung Fu in early Kaja Kempo. They had to go looking for it. I don't get the Kung Fu obsession. It's such a weak martial art, but there's such a mystique to it. The 70s, everyone was Kung Fu fighting. Oh, here we go. Oh, I lost John. I'll keep talking though to keep things rolling. To keep things rolling. On Mr. Awak's anger and hate towards Kung Fu. Mr. Awake, just remember there's historical evidence of everyone was Kung Fu fighting in the 1970s. And I think that song, I blame that song for everything. So that's my answer. Since we lost John for a second.
What did I miss?
You leave for 2 seconds, and this is what happens. So
that was the best. That's probably the best question yet. What was that question?
Mr. Awake didn't really have a question, but a comment. He said there was almost zero influence of Kung Fu in early Kaja Kempo, and they had to go looking for it. And I don't get what the Kung Fu obsession was. It's a weak martial art with a lot of mystique behind it. And I say everyone was Kung Fu fighting, like I said, in the 1970s. And that's and that's where
it was kind of like cardio kickboxing or Taibo in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And then Muay Thai in the 90s, and then DJJ in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta have a trend. Gotta get with what's trending. Justin Lewis says, "Thank you, Pitmaster. Gold information, genius." You're very welcome, Justin. All right. Well, this has been another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty Show. Once a week, we answer your questions live, covering a topic with UFC coach John Hackelman. If you are looking for training, and someone in the comments actually asked, where do I sign up for training? If I want to train with John and I can't travel all the way to Arroyo Grande, California, what do I do? Or maybe I can't get to one of the pit locations nationwide. Well, if you're in that circumstance, you can sign up at the www.thepit.tv. That's www.thepit.tv. And as you saw in the comments, I put it right there. You can click there or put that in your web browser, and you can train and check out the entire program right now for less than $20 a month. You can audit the program and then sign up. And this is a great program. I've said this before. It's a great program. When you sign up, it'll put you through the entire pit program as if you were actually there.
Part of the Ohana. You get to be part of the pit Ohana. That's a close-knit, very effective, and a very high functioning, high notoriety family. And it's a great family. People, I mean, it's nothing but respect. We don't have, some people ask me about certain fight camps and stuff. I'm not gonna name them right now, but when I watch their fighters, the way they carry on outside of the cage or even in the cage, but let's go with either. It's just blatant disrespect, disloyalty, and I'm thinking, how does this? It's supposed to be martial arts. It's a sport martial arts, but it's still a fucking martial art. There's a fucking martial art in the name. It's called mixed martial art. So to have that kind of disrespect and disloyalty, and I see it with different camps, in the camps, by the people doing things outside of the cage or in the cage, and I just think, how can their instructor, it's a coach, but this is a martial arts school. It's supposed to be presenting themselves like a martial artist, and they make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but some things are just over the edge. And I think ours is as a culture and traditions go. I'm very proud of our ohana, and I'm very proud of the people in our ohana. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great way. And if you're a Kaju Kempo guy, we're doing our first level 1 certification for we're calling it Kaju Kempo MMA. Basically, it's just MMA, but it's directed for Kaju Kempo guys because there's such a small leap between the two because of all the differences of martial arts that we've been exposed to. It's not a far jump. Like if you're a Muay Thai guy, it's a far jump. You're not used to the takedowns and ground and any of that stuff. Or if you're a wrestler or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy with no striking, there's a big jump to MMA. But Kaju Kempo guys have a much smaller, a shorter jump to go from one to the other. So I think our MMA program is just what the doctor ordered for Kaju Kempo guys. So if you want to teach MMA at your school, or if you want to even have an MMA school in your Kaju Kempo gym, you know what I mean? Like we did. Our gym was 97% traditional students, 3% fighters, but we got known for, the fighters, and we had a lot of fun with it. And the students got to watch the fighters fight when they fought, and they got to train, at the same gym. And it's a whole different curriculum that you can, upgrade your students to, or you can just get new students that just want to fight. So our Kaju it's our Kaju Kempo MMA program is going to go crazy, and we're just starting it. We're unveiling it January 10th, 11th, and 12th. The first seminar we're going to have, and it's a certification seminar, and it's going to be at the Pit in Arroyo Grande, California, and you'll get to train at the compound, the same beach, the same everything that all of the fighters have done. You're going to get to do it and get certified at the end. If you do it and pass everything. So it is a pass fail thing, but it's not like you don't have to fight anyone to pass. You just have to show proficiency in the techniques that I showed you. Of course, it's all relative because you're only going to learn it for a day or two, but I just have to know that we're on the same page.
So there you go. So there's a few layers of what just happened there. For those of you that want to sign up for online courses, www.thepit.tv. For those of you who are interested in this program, come on
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
And January
Come on in.
10th, contact
Come
me
on
either
in.
here on YouTube or on Facebook, me or John, and we will sign you up. All
Bing,
right.
bing. You got
Catch you
it.
all next
All
time.
right, guys. Thanks for coming. I'll see you guys later. Don't forget, don't let anyone